Welcome back to another episode of the Project Workbench. Today, I did some more work on my R2D2. Not too much, I put in a few hours. I think I was at the shop for about 5 hours today. And not a ton of progress to show, but it was a lot of work. And I think it speaks to how you really have to be strategic when you're Corona! I think you really have to be strategic when you're building something of this size and complexity. Because there's some places where you can save money, but you'll add labor. Or you can spend money and save labor. And then there's sort of everywhere in between on that spectrum. And for my money, the whole project is really just an exercise in that. You can buy parts that are ready to go, but there's a cost associated with that. Or you can make it from scratch. You can use the plans. There's a time associated with that. So a lot of the work I was doing today was sort of when I found myself caught in the middle ground of that. So for example, the shoulder hubs for the legs. In hindsight, I should have just bought the resin ones because doing the stacked MDF, even though quite affordable and beautifully routed, beautifully done pieces, it's just a lot of labor. And for those of you who've watched my videos in the past, it's my least favorite kind of labor. It's that sanding, puttying, primering, sanding, repeat. Gosh, one of my friends wrote a whole book on it. Steve, I'll put of Solo Roboto Industries. I'll put a link to his channel on his site. He literally wrote a book about sanding. I should check it out because I hate it so much. So for something like that, it's a good example of where I probably just should have spent the extra money, and it's not even that much, to just get the resin pieces that really just need a tiny bit of cleanup, and then they're ready to go on the robot. Same thing with the feet. So I did a fiberglass layup of feet, the shells, a little while ago, and I'm not an expert at fiberglassing, and I think the reason, the tell of that is that I use way too much material. So I had to just grind the heck out of those shells inside to make room. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's the foot shell, and this is the part I had to hog out. So the way these feet work with the Senna drivetrain is they basically just sit on top of it. They're not load bearing, they don't support any weight, they're just sort of very cosmetic. So this channel here is actually replaced with an aluminum one in the final one, and that's where the weight of the droid is transferred to that aluminum channel. So that meant I had to hog out a lot of material from the inside. It actually looks really clean and nice, but man, that was probably an hour of work right there. But it did give me a chance to use an amazing piece of equipment, the handheld belt sander. And I believe it was our man Adam Savage who introduced me to this tool years ago. And it's sort of an odd bit of kit, as the Brits would say, because it has sort of very limited purpose, but when you find a use case for it, it is absolutely invaluable. Like getting into little nooks and crannies, I don't know, the foot shell. I don't even know how I would have done this. Maybe Dremel it and then sand it? I don't know, it would have been ugly. Certainly not as smooth as this, and this isn't even finished. But yeah, handheld belt sander, man. Truly an amazing piece of equipment. I think this cost me like 30 bucks on Amazon. Very cool. Here's one of the horseshoes I was talking about. Today's session really involved gluing on these two back plates. And what it really made me realize is all the work I did on cleaning up the sides previously was wasted effort, because now I'm gonna have to revisit a lot of that. But this was a pretty straightforward exercise using wood glue and clamps. And I think it turned out great, but definitely some sanding, puttying, primering, and repeating to be done on those. And also, I just didn't, these shapes just aren't as clean as I'd like them. I just don't have the patience or maybe the skill to get those perfectly squared off the way they should be. I don't think anyone's gonna notice. I'm not gonna notice, I don't care, I just want it done. But if I would have just bought the resin ones that are finished, I'd be done by now, long time ago. And here's what that other horseshoe looks like. So I've glued on those two back plates. On this one, the glue's still curing, drying, and it's all clamped together. And there's some cardboard around the back side so I don't ding up or damage the cosmetic face, the front face of the horseshoe. And judging by how the first one came out, I have every faith that this one will come out just as good. So then we're just back in the mode of sanding, putting, primering, etc. For these guys. I really want to get these done quick because I've spent a lot of time on these, and I've still got the entire legs to go. Now a lot of work's already been done on the legs, but there's still a long way to go. So again, like with so many of my projects, it's really just a matter of picking your battles and figuring out which parts you want to obsess on. And really my approach for this one was supposed to be, don't obsess on anything, just get it done. But man, the siren-like call of perfection is a hard one to ignore, I promise. Finally got this thing finished. This is just a mock-up, I guess. I'll probably end up doing some fine-tuning. But yeah, this is it. It's pretty much fully assembled now. Those chains were a giant pain. I did not expect those to be as much trouble as they were. The real takeaway is that steel is not soft. Aluminum is. So all of the work that I did on the aluminum was actually a vacation compared to doing things like grinding links off. I should have just bought a link tool, but I really wanted to get some progress done today, and I figured that would have added, at a minimum, a trip to a bike store onto my day, which probably would have been the better use of my time. But at the end of the day, or at the end of this build sesh, it's finished. Okay, that needs to be tightened up. But yeah, that's one side. I've made some progress on the other foot, and really, you know, the bummer is you never get it right the first time. All right, after a lot of work, I am done with the second foot, the drive system. This one went a lot quicker, even though it still took a lot of time. The real trick was figuring out how to break the chains apart and link them back together. I watched a YouTube video. There's a tool you need to buy, but I didn't want to buy it, and so I just sort of had to figure out how to do it. And on the first set, I ended up just sort of grinding it down with the Dremel and the little rotary wheel, and it just took forever. But I finally figured it out. It was just a pain in the butt, just sort of something, you know, you just got to goof around until you get it right. And once I figured it out, the second one came together a lot faster. So I still need to tighten that chain to tension. But other than that, the general assembly is pretty much done. Need to tighten everything up, and then I'll probably be ready for a test. And I think I'm also going to grind down those posts too. Some unsightly post sticking out. Well, that wraps it up for this episode. So I'm definitely hoping that the whole slow and steady wins the race thing parable is true. Because I'm definitely moving slow, but I am definitely moving slowly, but I'm also moving steadily. I'm pretty consistent about getting work done over the course of the week or the month, so that's cool. So that's it for this week. As always, we will see you for the next one.